Welcome back to the kitchen. This is Grow and Preserve. I'm Carter, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. We spent all summer preserving what came out of the garden or from the farmer's market or the grocery store or wherever, all that wonderful fresh produce. And that is a super important reason to can at home. But another reason that I particularly appreciate is the ability to make products that suit the way I want to eat instead of commercially available products that sometimes have things in them that I don't necessarily want in my diet. So as you may know, I try to eat low carb most of the time, but certainly in a product where there is no, you can't tell any kind of difference between the low carb and the regular, I'm going to go with the low carb version every time. But I have to make that in the case of teriyaki sauce. Today, we're going to make it and can it and put it on the shelf. And I'm pretty excited about this. This is the first time I've seen a canning recipe for teriyaki sauce. Not the first time I've thought about looking for one, however. So this comes out of this canning book, Preserving with a Purpose. This, as I mentioned last time we did a recipe out of this book, is very much a rebel canning recipe book. So if you are relatively new to canning and maybe aren't sure of all the rules yet, it would probably behoove you to stick with the tested recipes or recipes from names like Ball or any of the extension services, any of that, until you know what you're comfortable doing and why things work the way they work. Right, before we put the recipe together, let's talk through all of the ingredients that she uses. Some of them I'm using, some of them I'm making some changes to. So the first one is soy sauce. Now, of course, feel free to use regular soy sauce. I'm going to use Tamari because my daughter is gluten-free. She'll be here for an entire week at Thanksgiving, and one of her favorite meals is beef with broccoli. So I'm going to use Tamari to keep this gluten-free so that I can use it for her. But regular soy sauce is absolutely fine. 2 cups of water, no big deal. She uses 2 cups of granulated sugar. I'm going to use allulose, which is what I tend to can with. So that is a 0-calorie sweetener that I'm going to use, but feel free to use sugar, honey. I don't know, honey teriyaki. That sounds pretty darn good too. So feel free to use what suits you. Vinegar, it says white or rice vinegar. I'm going to use rice vinegar, and I just have the plain organic rice vinegar, unseasoned, again, because I don't want all of their added sugar. And it calls for a cup of mirin. I had to go look at the ingredients in mirin. I thought it was, it says it's like an Asian style cooking wine, right? Well, it's corn syrup. it is basically all carbs and some, not great additional ingredients in that. So I'm actually going to substitute the mirin with white wine. And don't laugh at my box of white wine. I'm not a wine drinker, and I didn't want to end up with, the bulk of a bottle of wine left in my house, not knowing what to do with it. So I just got a little box of wine, and I will add extra sugar if I need to get to the overall taste that I want to make up for that sweetness that I'm not adding with the mirin. But again, if you're not watching your sugar, by all means, mirin is what the recipe calls for. Feel free to use that. And ginger and garlic. So this is stuff that I have frozen throughout the season. So it's 2 tablespoons of garlic. So I have 2 little cubes of that. And I'm calling this 2 tablespoons of ginger. If it's slightly more, that's okay with me. And crushed red pepper flakes. And then she calls for a 1/4 cup of clear gel. I don't use clear gel. Clear gel, if you don't know, is modified food starch. It is the thickener that is approved, safe for canning. Tons of people use it. Tons of recipes use it. It's absolutely, totally fine. It doesn't work for me. It's starch, basically. So I don't want the carbs in it. It's something I avoid at the grocery store. I'm not going to add it to what I'm using. But I'll tell you, it kind of threw me for a loop because from my way of thinking, teriyaki sauce was, the same consistency as soy sauce. I've never seen one that would have required clear gel. So I went to the grocery store and I'm looking at all these different teriyaki sauces and I'm not seeing any kind of thickeners in there. And then I picked up one that said stir fry teriyaki sauce or teriyaki stir fry or something like that. And that's where I found the thickener in there. So I think what she's trying to make is a teriyaki stir fry sauce. So if that appeals to you, by all means, feel free to use that. I actually, when I'm cooking, toward the end, when I want to thicken up the sauce a little bit, if I do, I add a keto thickener. For me, that's glucomannan, but you feel free to use whatever suits you. So you will not see me put in any kind of thickener in mine today, but feel free to use the clear gel as she suggests. All right, so let's get started. This is so quick and so easy, you'll just be shocked. So even if you don't have a canner at home, I'm gonna use the steam canner, but if you don't have a canner, you just need a pot of water and the appropriate jars and the ingredients. And this is gonna be so easy, anybody can do it. All right, let's pull out my pot. I'm gonna show you a picture. I'll put a picture up on the screen of how this pot looked the other day. I thought, well, I'm gonna boil down some, tomato water from a preservation project I did, and I stuck it on the stove and I completely forgot about it, and I came back in, it was black. I mean, it was really, really black. So I managed to get it spotlessly clean, but I thought it was a goner there for quite a while, so I'm happy to have my pot back. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the water because I have that in my measuring cup already. It's 2 cups of water. I wish I could get this to stay open. 2 cups of soy sauce. So I'm gonna start with this one. This one is reduced sodium. I'm not using that for any particular reason other than that's what I had in my pantry. Now I need 2 cups of soy sauce, Tamari. There's 1 cup. I need a knife to get that off. The dog going to the pantry again. She knows that if she makes noise while I'm filming, I'll give her what it is she wants, so she'll stop making noise. All right. Okay, 2 cups of soy sauce, or Tamari if you are gluten-free. Two cups of granulated sugar, or allulose in my case. Let's see, this is a 1/2 cup measure, so I'll do 4 of these. And then, as I said, if I need to add more because I'm not using the mirin, I'll take care of that in a bit. So when we heat this up, you're going to want to make sure that your sugar is completely dissolved. This allulose, this particular brand of allulose that I use, dissolves instantaneously. But I will still double check. Okay, so that's 1 cup. 1.5. 2 cups. The Tamari smells wonderful. 1.5 cups of vinegar. Again, I'm using unseasoned rice vinegar, but you could use, I think it says white or rice vinegar, either one. Well, I could have just dumped the whole bottle in. Okay, 1.5 cups of rice vinegar. Ginger, 2 tablespoons of fresh ginger, 2 tablespoons of fresh minced garlic. Again, I'm going to dump these frozen. comes in here. And the wine. Where is it? 1 cup of the mirin. So I'm going to use 1 cup of the wine. Smells like wine. Okay. I know you're supposed to use a wine, you know, that you would drink. I wouldn't know how to choose that. This is Pinot Grigio out of a box. Probably less than stellar, but we'll see. I think it'll be just fine. And a pinch of red pepper flakes. Actually, it says a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. That seems like a lot to me. I'm going to go just a little bit shy on that. All right, let's get this on the stove. I'll bring you around and we'll do a little taste test, a pH test as soon as we get this going. All right, we'll get this fired up. My ginger and garlic were still kind of frozen. Grab a couple of spoons. It's really pretty good. I think I'm going to want a little more sweetener in that, but we'll let it heat up and taste it again. Let's do a quick pH test. Okay. pH, oh my goodness, yeah, we're going to be fine. So, let's see, can you see that? I'm calling that a 3.5. It's not a 4, it's not a 3, a 3.5. Okay, so that's good. We'll do one more test before we put it in, make sure everything is dissolved in it. But I think that that's going to be just fine. I think I might let that cook down just a little bit. I'm not sure that I would have added as much water since I'm not adding the clear gel. But let's see what she says. Yeah, the sauce is too thin for your liking, add more clear gel. Okay, well, I'm not going to do that part. It says let it simmer for about 10 minutes to let the flavors melt. I may go a little longer than that, and I may bring it past a simmer. I'm going to pack it in jars with a 1/2-inch headspace and process for 15 minutes. It's like the easiest thing we've done all year, right? I'm going to add another 1/2 cup of allulose to make up for the mirin I did not add. This is tasting fantastic though. But again, I would say if you're not going to use the clear gel, you may not want to add as much water either. Next time I will not add as much water. All right, I'm going to let that finish heating through, and then we're going to jar it up, and that's the end of this one. All right, this is ready to go. I cooked it down a little bit. It's delicious. It is sweet and salty and tangy and all the things you expect of teriyaki sauce. So I'm really pleased with that. As I said, I didn't add any thickeners to this, but feel free to do the clear gel if you wish. You can see this took, I don't know, what, 15 minutes to put together. It's just as easy as it gets. All right, I have my jars out. Talk about some of the things where I use this. I don't know that I've really done too many Asian cooking recipes, not candy recipes, but cooking recipes on the channel. And the reason for that is because those recipes tend to cook up so fast, it makes it really hard to film properly. But I use this. Beef and broccoli, as I said, is one of my daughter's favorites. My son loves stir fry or fried rice. Half-inch headspace is what we're looking for. There are some keto dumplings that I make. Now it's quite a process to make those, but I do those on occasion, and those are fantastic, and this sauce will be great with it. Just great. I also do lettuce wraps. I think I've done that for you before. I did a beef lettuce wrap with some canned ground beef. That's excellent. Sometimes I use ground turkey or ground chicken. I have also done for you, I think, the ground chicken and herb salad kind of thing. This would be great for that. I'm glad I didn't add all the hot pepper flakes. But this is not hot. So if you want the heat, feel free to add them. I was maybe half to 2/3 of a teaspoon instead of the full teaspoon. I may get 6. Yeah, easily. So this simmered for about 15 minutes or so. Well, more than simmered. I took it up to kind of a low boil and let it go so it would cook down just a little bit. Check the pH again, still at 3.5. So that's perfect. I'm gonna need some more jars. Right, I just washed up a couple more jars, popped them in the steam canner to heat up for a minute. We'll go ahead and get these cleaned up and lids on. This smells fantastic. So I ended up with at least 7, but I think we're going to be more like 8 half pints. So significantly more than the recipe said. Recipes are not always right, but they're usually not in your favor either. Usually you end up with less than a recipe says. My daughter's going to be so excited. All right, get these in, get the next jars out. Okay, perfect. So 8 half pints is what I got out of that, which is great. All right, so in my book, that is a great use of jars. I'm really excited to have that. We'll take these out in 15 minutes, and that's it. Is that the easiest thing we've done ever, maybe, on this channel? I think it might be. Piece of cake. Okay, these have finished their processing, and then they sat for 5 minutes. Take the lid off. Whoa, you heard the pops already? That was pretty fast. Okay, so let's get these out. Every single one of them sealed already before I could even get them out of the canner here. This was the easiest thing imaginable. That is an easy first time canning recipe. This is one of those things that there's just no reason for me to not have this on my shelf all the time. If my daughter didn't have to get back on a plane to get home to California after the holidays, I would send her home with some of this, because it's pretty near impossible to find, at least I've never found, gluten-free teriyaki sauce. There's Primal Kitchen, but you know, while delicious, this stuff costs an arm and a leg. All right. Yay. So let me know if you make this, and let me know what kind of things you use teriyaki sauce on in your kitchen. And do you use the thickened teriyaki sauce as like a stir-fry sauce or a glaze or something? Now, mix this with a little honey if you're not watching your carbs, and spread it on some ribs. Oh, yum, it just sounds delicious. Anyway, thank you so much for being here today, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.